Welcome back to the Psychedelic Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Sitnik. Think of me as your psychedelic big sister. And today's conversation is a really interesting one because we're going just beyond have an experience and into how to actually work with it in a variety of ways. My guest today is Jonathan Mozenter. He's a mentor, speaker, and organizational development consultant, and he focuses on human flourishing and psycho-spiritual transformation. He blends over 30 years of experience with deep training in somatic work, energy systems, and Tibetan Buddhism and altered states. So what was really interesting in this conversation is how many ways of thinking about his work Jonathan has. He likes to break things down into three. So when he's talking about his transformation style, he breaks it down for his clients. So if you're interested in learning how to navigate psychedelic experiences for your own self-growth and putting some terminology to that, this is the session for you. Let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Psychedelic Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Sitnik, and today we have Jonathan Mozenter with us. Jonathan, welcome. All right, so everybody get ready. Let me introduce you to Jonathan. So Jonathan is a soul mentor, speaker, and organizational development consultant focused on human flourishing and psycho-spiritual transformation with over 30 years of experience in organizational development and deep training in somatic and energetic disciplines. Jonathan bridges intellectual understanding with embodied transformation. We might wind up talking about the embodied with psychedelics. I love that. His work integrates the Tibetan Buddhist meditative state development, integral theory, chai cultivation, shadow integration, somatic therapy, altered state perception and integration, healing energy, dream yoga, and human design. Jonathan, welcome. Now I'm going to let you talk. Go ahead. Give us your origin story. How the heck do you find yourself talking on the Psychedelic Scene Podcast?
Yeah. Thanks for saying all that. I'll get origin story. I'll go very high level. So first thing, my parents are social workers. I learned psychology as a kid. That was more important. We weren't very religious, so psychology was dominant. So I remember I do psycho-spiritual stacking. I like to combine the mind, because everything goes through the mind. You know, a lot of people don't think about that, but every moment we're perceiving things. So when I went to college, I got very experimental when I went to Boston University, where I studied. I kind of was a sports guy, so I like to bring psychedelics with fun and high performance. That's like my big brand, is how can we have a good time, but also be a responsible, mature adult. And so when I was in college, I experimented with psychedelics, had a little bit of psilocybin, some LSD, a lot of marijuana, and it opened me up. It made me very introspective. So if you want to plant my seeds, also I'm a big music guy. My dad was a Grateful Dead person. He exposed me to 60s music. So here's some great words. We'll underline this one. I call psychedelics flavored energy, and what we do with it with precision. So I'm going to finish off my origin story with precision. So fast forward, I study organizational development in my 20s. I got a consulting job, yada, yada. I'm helping organizations reduce safety, transportation agencies reduce injuries and fatalities. But I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be flourishing all my life, and I'm doing good but not great, and I want to have like an A+ life. I'm grading myself with a B. So when I'm having my midlife contemplation, I said to the universe, I'll do whatever it takes to have my best life. And it took me in a totally different direction. I went into Tibetan Buddhism, and it turns out they're like psychology. It's super advanced psychology. They know things about psychology in Tibet. They just stare at their mind. They're up there in the cold in the caves, and they stare at their mind. It turns out that's useful. They learn things that Western psychologists didn't know. And I was in a lineage. The Dalai Lama asked my teacher, Daniel P. Brown, to bring it to the West. So I'm in a lineage of westernizing Vajrayana Buddhism, which is about mastering your mind. And so just that gives people context. And it turns out the Dharmakaya, which is just like the Tibetan Buddhist word for like God or the truth body, was guiding me. It's like, all right, Jonathan, you like to synthesize things. Let's bring in psychedelics to help people become Buddhas. I'm like into psychedelic Buddhas, a fast path. So I'm an expert on this. Vajrayana Buddhism is like, in Buddhism, there's 3 turnings, and the 3rd turning is the most advanced stuff. And I'd say we're moving towards the 4th turning. The 4th turning is like taking it to a new level, and it's about synthesizing. So I wanted to tell my psychedelic story. So after, this is a really important point. After 5 years of doing this very serious Tibetan stuff, I started this field. My intuition started to pop. Remember, we talked about that in the bio. I'm here to talk about intuition, and my intuition was like, Jonathan, you should do ayahuasca. And so then I went from ayahuasca. Then it was like, let's try bufo. And then I left my job, and then I started doing a lot of psychedelics. I've done hundreds of trips, but I do them everyone with intention. They all make my life better, and I'm really good at it. And so now, then after years of doing it on my own, I started, the spirits were like, nobody's doing it like you do. I studied with 2 energy masters. Sifu Jones, who's a Qi, an esoteric Qigong teacher. And what he taught me was how to amplify the energy, right? And then I studied with another guy in Colorado named Donnie Epstein. He has something called epi-energetics, which is epi-energetics is the energy and information to produce the extraordinary. And Donnie has the gift of labeling energies, subtle energies, in names. So there are these flavored energies, energetics, that are affecting us all the time. And but it's unconscious because we haven't been taught about it. But once you learn it, you can learn, oh, I'm using these energies. And then you can ask the question, do I want to use these energies? What if I have like a big, like a menu of energies? And you could be like, I don't want to use this one. This one's better. This is what I enable people to do. And I bring it to the psychedelic experience. This is the game changer. A lot of people have great experiences with psychedelics, no doubt. This is my experience. Better questions, better answers. Because when you're setting your intentions, we all know intentions are important, right? If you ask a really specific question, you get a very specific answer. If you're vague, then the spirits don't know how to answer, or whatever. You answer with specifics. So, anyways, I'll toss it back to you there.
Well, there's 2 things that immediately brought up questions. One of the things I talk about is being able to navigate the experience and use the psychedelic almost as a scalpel. That's Jill's word. It's clearly not your word.
Your word, yeah.
One of the things you said is, I do this. I went on, over X number of journeys, trips, and I do it well. And I think a lot of people don't understand that navigating the experience is possible. Can you explain, what do you mean you navigate it well? What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I break a lot of things into triads. I'm really big into 3s. Because 3 is a manageable number. So first off, we're going to talk about 3 very specific triads. So first off, psychedelic experiences, break it into preparation, the day of the ceremony, and integration. You got to crush all 3 of them. Most people just jump into the ceremony and they don't do the other 2. Like
they think that's
even
it.
Professional like ayahuasca shamans, they were great at the ceremony. I give them A+. That I learned a lot from them, but I thought they were weak sauce. No offense, I'm not saying every ayahuasca shaman is the same, but at least the ones that I was exposed to, and I talked to a lot of other people. It's not that uncommon. They're not really preparing people as well as they could,
right?
And integrating. So that's really where I think I add the most value, is in those 2 stages. Yes. So let's get into that. If you want to be better at life, it's like the same thing. Like life's like a game. So it's about intimacy. A chess master, he wasn't born a chess master. He played a lot of chess. He read a lot of chess books. He studied with chess masters, right? So it's about knowing yourself. There are 3 ways to know yourself. One is, I think about things in terms of relationship. There's a relationship with our parts. A lot of people don't realize that our consciousness has different parts. We got like a judgy part, we got an enthusiastic part, we got a worry part, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, a protected part. So a lot of people don't even know about parts. So I help them get in tune with their parts. Go ahead.
Parts work, a little IFS, internal family systems, yes. Lots of videos. Go if this is the first time you're hearing parts, you're going to love it. Go dive into it. All right. With that said, Jonathan,
yeah, I love IFS, internal family systems. The most important for the audience to get is that we have different parts. because this parts, a lot of times we're confused or we're worried, we don't have clarity, is because we don't have, our parts are at war. So I help people. So remember, the key is getting our relationships aligned so they have generative relationships. We want to get relationships out of conflict, out of confusion, out of overwhelm. Generative means co-creation. So there could be parts in your mind. You could be having relationship problems with somebody in your life, whether it be a lover, a child, a coworker, a friend, family member, yada, yada. So that's two. Remember, and the third part is parts of life. Third one is metaphysics or God. What is our relationship with life itself? What people don't realize is, here's a secret of the universe, and this is really important for your psychedelics trip, is how we feel about our different internal parts is what we project onto the world, even if we're not aware of it. So this is why psychedelics are awesome, is because they can amplify what's going on with you so you can see it more clarity with precision, right?
Yep.
And so they
bring you the part that is struggling or we're all adult. We're all children wrapped up in adult wrappers.
Absolutely. So if you want a great intention, like something precise, think about an area, a domain of life, and you could ask, show me the parts that are in conflict that are causing me to have not getting my dream job, or not why am I having so much worry? There's probably some parts. And then when you're in the psychedelic experience, there's different stages. So here we got another triad. I like triads. I said you have to discover, right? What is that's where it is.
Get curious.
Everything's about intimacy.
Yeah.
Once you discover, you have to move into transform. Transform. These are seasons. So you want to get out the discover stages to bring more awareness, so you get more intimacy with the problem, and then you have to be like, this is where it's good to work with a psychedelic therapist, someone like me who knows the process. So the second of this trinity is process, transformation process. So what stage of the transformation goes through a process. A lot of people just want to, we're in this pill culture. We're just going to take a pill. And some people think that, I'll just take a psychedelic and that'll be it. But it's just not really how it goes most of the time. Most of the time, it's like the psychedelic, when used intelligently, can help you accelerate a certain stage of your transformation process. That's when it's really used the best. So if you see life as a series of transformational steps.
So you said when you're in that journey, discover, and then you said transform, and I'm not sure
probably
people...
would. I would probably do that during the integration stage.
Okay.
It's a lot of times psychedelics are good because they're flavored energy. They amplify what's going on in your mind. This is why a lot of people don't do well with psychedelics, because sometimes it'll amplify. It can amplify like visions. You can have visions about where you want to go, or it can amplify your desire body, but it can also amplify your shadow body. And sometimes people are trying to avoid their shadow stuff, and then it gets amplified, and then they don't do well afterwards with that, unless they have an integration person to help them make it. So during the integration session, you can get into the two other seasons. You can, when you're integrating, you're reflecting on what happened, whether alone or with friends or with a professional. You get what's called awakenings. Awakenings just means you became aware of something you weren't aware of before. I mean, people have all these other weird names, but that's technically what it means. Awakening just means, like, if someone said I had a big awakening, I'd be like, great, what did you awaken to? I don't know what that means. It's like some people think there's only like one awakening, but there isn't.
What did you awake to? Yeah.
Exactly. And then you want to figure out, well, what's the next baby step? Integration. Probably, if you look at the psychedelic experience from preparation, ceremony, and integration, most people spend most of their time on the ceremony, talking about it like as a peak experience. But I would like them to make that actually the smallest of the three, because you want to prepare a lot, because it'll make the actual experience a lot more valuable. And then most of the time should be spent on the integration, because that's where you can take the insights, the awakenings, and turn them into baby steps that bring it in, go from an idea, like it's a cool story, to get into, we talked about embodiment. How do you get it into your cells? How do you get it in your nervous system? So you do it through integration.
So what we just talked about was the classic prep, journey, integration. That's how you navigate this process. If you are like Jonathan and you're in that midlife, or you're at that career point and something's blocked, if you just go into some sort of ceremony without being intentional about it, you're not necessarily going to get what you're looking for because you kind of didn't set the GPS. That's the way I say it to clients. If you don't set the GPS, you're not going to know. And I will say that I have clients who still put too much emphasis. I do 40, 20, 40. 40% prep, 20 is the journey, 40%. And I still have people say, I didn't really go through that much during the journey. I don't remember much. And meanwhile, the 3 weeks after the journey, they are awakening to their parents' manipulation, to their blockages, what's been holding them back. And it comes so naturally that they don't even realize. And then they're like, well, my journey wasn't that great. I'm like, wait a minute, look at all these awakenings in your language. So help me understand, because I don't think I've heard this language before.
Okay.
Energy flavors. I know specifically different psychedelics have different energy flavors, but What's your definition? How are you describing that term?
Great. That's because there's a lot of flavors, like a palette. So flavored mean like energy is like, it's like, boom, you take a Red Bull and it's got a lot of energy, but where are you going to, it's just like energy plus direction. So like any kind of an emotion or it's all about what is the nature of the relationship between the observed and the observer. So let me give you 3 categories of examples. So one is just plainly like emotion. Are you excited? Are you curious? Are you scared? Or are you some sort of combination? Like you can bring people to this. I'm fascinated and excited, to be here on the podcast with Jill and her audience. I'm bringing those 2 flavors to it. Yeah. Then you could be like, here's another distinction. Like, there's these, Donnie Epstein has these 6, he's the guy who invented epi-energetics. He's got the 6 types of intelligences. So they're pretty common. Most of them are ones we have heard of, like a survivor. We got a part of us like, I got to make sure this person, it's a parts work thing. There's a part of us that just, its job is to take in information, the reactor. Like, how do we feel fully? And each of these intelligence can work more or less intelligent. But let me just get the 6 out there and talk, because there's a really important distinction. There's our judger. Is this good? Is it bad? Where's the boundary? Then there's the upper mental or the optimizers, where you take a lot of different perspectives, like your scenario planning, your creativity. You're like, I could do this or that. What are the pros and cons of each? So it's more upper mind. And then there's the transpersonal intelligence called the soul or the illuminator. Now, this is more like your higher self. And like the higher self is the part of you that's kind of like sees even the stuff that you're unconscious to and guides you if you know how to talk to it. Not a lot of people know how to work with it, but a lot of people access their soul intelligence, higher self during a psychedelic experience because you need a lot of energy to activate the illuminator. And then the last one's I'll mention is called the Weaver. He's like a connector. It's like for those people who believe that there's an aspect of us that's beyond, that's non-local. Some people might call it God, but I'm a what's called a non-dual person. So my story about life is we're all God, just talking to each other to know what it means to be alive. God is parts interacting. That's my thing. I'm talking to God right now. I'm God. We're all everyone in the audience is God. We have different levels of development, so we're not the same. But ultimately, I'm talking to me at some level. So which intelligence am I using? My judger right now? Like you might get aware, I'm using my judger. I'm in my survivor, but I'd rather bring my soul or my upper mental. So what I do is I help my clients get aware. They can use the psychedelic to understand which intelligence they're at, and maybe certain stories they have about themselves are connected to it. So that's a big one. So I help people get off their survivor parts, their judger parts, their critics, and switch up, get more upper mental when they need it, and soul, more soul, like how to have more access to it. Remember, I help my clients have high performance, more intelligence, more intuition, more energy, using their energy effectively. And the psychedelic process allows you to, boom. This is the third part that I wanted to talk about. So like triads, where we go to use the energy to penetrate, to amplify, illuminate what's in our mind, and we see whether this story is connected. This is an important distinction to a reference point from our childhood. A lot of us make stories about life rules from our parents or from our childhood wounds, whatever the environment we grew up. Some people think it's connected to astrology or past life. It doesn't matter which of the cause, it's probably all of them. But the point is, do adult versions of us, do you think we should be using the same rules we made up when we were 4 or 3? So a lot of what I do is I help them see, remember, relationship. I help them identify which are the rules. So this is the third area. Remember, I talked about rules create energetics. So we want to use the psychedelic experience to identify the rules that are connected to the things that are like holding us back. And then like first you have to illuminate, you have to discover. Remember, we talked about discover. So we're going to discover what the rules are. And then afterwards, we're going to be like, damn, I'm still using that rule I created when my mom was forcing me to eat
when I was
like
4,
like a salad when I wasn't ready. And now I don't like when people tell me what to do, like that. That's probably like an actual thing that happened from my life, right? It's a rule I created when I was 6, but now it's like getting in the way, and then you can unhook it. You can consciously, that's the discover. And then afterwards you reflect on it. You have the awakening. I'm like, I don't want to do that rule anymore. And then you have to actually go through integration. So now I have to tell myself like a new story. Like it's like stop replaying something from your childhood over and over and over again. And it makes you kind of look like a stubborn ass when you could just be chill about it. It's like, whatever, they have an opinion, who cares? You know what I mean? So I go from to relaxation. That's a transformation. So anyways, does that clear what I'm talking about? These different kinds of flavored energies. They're like rules, intelligences, emotions, feelings. I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a while to integrate this, but.
Well, I think everybody in my work, the way I describe my work is like healing the moments that those parts were created. We were, a lot of mine was traumatic childhood stuff. And I had to go back, and I didn't know, I think you'll probably agree with this. A lot of your clients don't realize that the very behavior that they don't like as an adult was a very good protective strategy that was developed in childhood. And when they make that connection, and then in a variety of ways give themselves kind of what wasn't available then, or rethink about it now, there's a whole bunch of different flavors to that process. They're like, oh my gosh,
you just said something brilliant. You move them from lower mental judgment, I'm an idiot, I can't believe I'm doing it, to upper mental compassion. You have multiple perspectives. Now at upper mental, you can look at it from multiple perspectives, and you're getting it beyond the judger. And now, I did that. You said it was a protective part. It was useful then, but now it's not working. So you're holding the good and the bad at the same time instead of just doing one. And sometimes
being able to see
multiple. That's the awakening, is the multiple perspectives.
And I think, I think you can do this kind of work easily, not easily. I think you can obviously do this work without psychedelics, without enhanced states. What I found, where I was, I was in a ditch. I needed help getting out of the ditch, and I needed the safety of it. What I find for people is that it just happens faster with psychedelics. The things that I'm going to use your energies. The energies that are speaking up and are causing drama, they speak up with psychedelics, and you're able to identify them. Like you said, amplify. Those parts get amplified for you to go, and I always do this because it's like, oh, that's why I'm acting out against my boss who reminds me of my mother. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're amplifying the unhealthy, dysfunctional parts of the survivor and your judger and your critic, that just, you make them bigger, and then because you're in a higher energy state. A lot of times people take these medicines, they get into soul intelligence, and the soul intelligence,
a lot of perspective.
You can only make transformation when you're in soul intelligence or upper mental. You can't do it from the other ones. You got to bump up to level 4, level 5, at least, to make a change. And some people can't. Sometimes people's baseline is not at that. So what I like to do with my long-term clients is to help them go from a baseline of reactivity and judgment to compassion and possibility and creativity. But that takes a little while. You got to unhook a lot of old stories. Even for people who think they're really like, a lot of people have some people have a naturally use their upper mental for a defense pattern, so it becomes like a strength, but they still have a lot of shadow work. They still have a lot of survivor in there and a lot of judgment, and everyone needs to do it. I mean, everyone needs to not everyone needs to do psychedelics, but everyone needs to unhook their
some of
childhood
those
programs
stories
And the
Yes.
thing that's universal, but what's different is the specific rules and strategies are unique to you. So that
Mhm.
part's very individual, but the process of unhooking strategies from our past, which a lot of people call like your personality, and your soul is just like your personality without all these rules you don't need anymore. So you
Yeah.
can adapt to the modern times.
It sounds like we do parallel work. I think we have
I
different
bet.
language for it, different experience.
Right.
Is there by any chance a client experience, obviously confidentiality, but does
Yeah.
anything come to mind about a client changing his or her story? Because I think I think there's a lot of people who don't really understand that, wait a minute, you mean I'm just living by stories that were created when I was a kid? No, that's not true. I'm a successful person.
It's changing your relationship to the story, but you're changing the story about
Yep.
what happened. It's
Yep.
not like you're rewriting what happened, but your relationship to the story. So I have a client, like what we do is we have coaching sessions. I tend to work with people, not we're like, we do like 90-minute coaching sessions, and then we build up the trust. So I know his
Yeah.
psyche really well. He trusts me with the very vulnerable stories of his life. It's not something you do in a first session. But he was molested, and it was really caused a lot of problems in his adult life.
Sure.
And we also explored it. It screwed up stuff with his family.
Yeah.
And I helped him see that his reaction to it created some of his greatest strengths, because he realized that he doesn't trust his parents to protect him anymore. So he became very independent. And then he really crushed it in his career because he became very independent. He believed in himself. He became very resourceful.
Yeah.
A lot of our survivor programs have all of our survivor programs have strengths and weaknesses. And so I help people take off the weaknesses and amplify the strengths. So that's a story of where he changed his story, where it was really hampering him, but then he integrated it at a deeper level. So during the integration process, this client just felt like a lot of his relationship with his parents improved. Instead of judging them for not protecting them, he showed that he took ownership for the good part
Yeah.
that led to a strength, and now he used that strength to let go of the parts that no longer served. And so now he's a much higher version, and he can stabilize. He let go of some hooks with the lower mental and with the survivor, and he was able to stabilize more frequently in upper mental and soul. And that's a big part of the name of the game.
There's a lot of stories. I think what validates some of my clients when we're talking about some very challenging material, molestation, is that it's not uncommon for multiple parts to be created, multiple survival strategies to be created from these horrific early childhood things, and having to revisit them for the one time of, well, I need to stay small because when I speak up, I get noticed and this happens. I'm too much. I needed to, have a hand over my mouth, something of that sort. I'm making that up. But whatever story, when an adult does something and there is no emotional support for that child, obviously from another adult to kind of work through the trauma at the time, it is not uncommon to have to revisit those things from multiple, I'm going to use the word injuries. You might use the word energy, different parts. And I think that surprises a lot of my clients, that they think they've worked through something and 6 months later they do another journey and a whole other story about that comes out. And,
Yes.
This is a really great opportunity to validate for people that that's the way our brains work to survive.
Yeah. I mean, part of us fractures. Like, this is what's going on. It has to do with overwhelm. Like, there's the person who's having a trauma, their witness is going to be like, oh, this is overwhelming and I can't handle it. So it creates another part, a protective part. So this is like a separation from the soul. It's a fracture. It's a fracturing. It's parts work. It's not bad or evil. It's normal. It's how life unfolds. It's how consciousness works. And as we said, everything goes through consciousness. But you want to reintegrate these parts. Some people call them like soul fragments or parts work. There's a lot of names for it. Aspecting, operating using different operating systems, intelligences. But it's all about like the thing that all of them have in common that hooks them all together. I think is actually this six intelligences. So I like simple models. So we got the six intelligences. So you want, again, if you want to take all this complexity simple, am I using my survivor strategies, right? The judge is like the negative side of your lower mental, and your critic is the negative side of your upper mental. So like all of the intelligences have a dark side, a shadow side. So like if you're coming up with a lot of possibilities because you're trying to optimize things, you're also applying it to yourself and you're being a jerk to yourself. You're like, oh, I'm not perfect in this way or that way, and then there's no self-love, you know. I have a big upper mental. My defense pattern and my upper mental kind of fused. If there was a perspective that was too overwhelming for me to handle, my upper mental kept coming up with other ways to look at it, so I didn't have to deal with the one that was causing me the pain. But it turned out I really did have to go back and deal with that, and integrate that eventually. But I didn't figure that out until after I started doing the Tibetan meditation, and the psychedelics really amplified it. I think what you said was really wise. You don't have to do psychedelics. You can certainly, but you do have to raise your energy.
You have to,
so
you
psychedelics are just one way to raise your energy. You can do breath work. I mean, coffee and exercise.
Yoga, somatic, exercise. Right.
Yeah, somatic.
Gotta raise the energy.
Good sex can change your energy state. I mean, relaxation is an energy shift, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really good. An ideal state is to be really relaxed and also really have high energy. When I was doing ayahuasca, I remember right in the beginning, every time I did ayahuasca, like I'd drink the cup, and then, you know, onset's like 30, 60 minutes later. And literally I felt like the energy, my higher self was, or Mrs. Ayahuasca or whatever it is, the Jaguar, whatever you want to call it, whatever this energy is. I was like, Jonathan, you're really nervous and tense. I can't work with you like this. I feel like it was giving me like an ayahuasca massage. It's like, he was really anxious. I was in denial of how anxious I was, because I wasn't feeling it in my body. I was generating possibilities to avoid feelings anxiety in my body, because I had a story that wasn't something that overwhelmed me. So anyways, but my point is this, is like the ayahuasca gave my higher self had more energy to handle more perspectives and maybe even transcend time and space. And also it likes to relax, and it likes when your defenses are down. So like, you know, sometimes I do ayahuasca like several nights in a row, and you don't get much sleep during that process. That's actually good, because your defenses are down when you're sleep deprived.
Very much so.
I don't know if they strategized it like that, but I noticed that was a benefit of it. But yeah, it's
I had that experience with iboga. I think
you've done iboga?
Yeah, I think I was awake for a day and a half, and it definitely it expands. All right, so Jonathan.
I love iboga. I could talk about that one for a while.
Yeah, iboga is interesting. Talk about different energies, right? All right, what's the one question that I should have asked in this whole conversation that I didn't ask?
You should have asked, Jonathan, tell us your most powerful triad. Okay. So this one is my core philosophy. If you want to be a human flourishing master, you got to master 3 areas. Now they're deep areas, but it gives at least it breaks down 3. We already talked about 1, mind mastery.
All right.
Okay, so this is 1, master your mind. The Tibetans got secrets that most people don't know. I teach them, but you got to learn how to master your mind.
Okay.
2, all right, life is filled with patterns. So we want to master metaphysical patterns and transformational patterns, because life is a series of transformations. You're always transforming at different stages. So you want to learn the patterns of the metaphysical patterns.
And we are pattern makers.
Yeah, we are. We're story makers. We're pattern makers. Yeah. That's exactly true. What we want to make sure the stories that we're making are the deepest, most accurate ones. I mean, we're always learning more, but some people have gone pretty far. I recommend Ken Wilber for metaphysics. He's my favorite metaphysician. And the last one we talked about, but I didn't give you the full download, which is mastering your energy. All right. 1, your story about who you are is bullshit. When the Buddhists say you don't have a self, it means you don't have a fixed sense of self, because your energy level, your sense of self is based on your energy levels and your stories or the rules you make up with they come up with that. So like if you're let's say you're breaking energy levels into like poor, low, neutral, high, neutral, energy rich, your sense of self is going to be different at all those levels. So I help people to start to those nasty stories you got of yourself, that's just you at a poor energy level. Let's let those go. And if you practice yourself stabilizing at a new energy level, then you'll have a much higher sense of self. You'll get more done and you'll have a lot more fun. And the last one brings it all three together. It's about energy direction. This is the thing that links all the three triad together. This is really important. You want to take the right energy and put it at the right point in time.
Yes.
Like if I want my mind to be sharp, right? Let's say you want to be really paying attention because you're listening to a great podcast like this one. You maybe bring like tenacious fascination and curiosity, right? See how I brought those with upper mental. So you bring those three together, your mind's really paying attention, and it's generating a lot of ideas. So directing the energy to the right phase at the right time, which is what I call coherent energy, is at the core of the teaching.
Yes.
So it takes a while to master this, but once you do, you can use it for every moment in your life. So it's a very high leverage skill. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, and really enjoy sharing the few things that I've learned, and I'm grateful that I have something to offer to the world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I think what happens when sometimes people start doing inner work is the energy to stay focused on the uncomfortable. And that's when you can really tell who's kind of ready to level up and who isn't yet. They can't bring the energy to the discomfort, or they can't maintain the energy through the discomfort. And that's also a sign that maybe that particular part needs to relax and move on to a different part. But
well said.
Yeah.
Those survival programs are nasty. Yeah.
They are smart. They are smart and strong.
They're sneaky.
Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time with us. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I would go to my website, Mozenter, Mozenter.com, or with YouTube, it's just at Mozenter. I got all kinds of videos. There's tons of free stuff, testimonials. I apply all my trinities to various domains of life, and I even talk about them directly. So there's a lot of free stuff there to go deep in with me.
Awesome. And I will make sure that all of that is in the show notes. Jonathan, spectacular conversation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you, Joe.
That was such a great conversation. And I think one of the biggest takeaways here is that it is not just about the experience. It's what you do with the experience. How do you prepare for the experience? Preparation, the awareness during the journey, and especially the integration afterward, where those energies kind of show up, because that's where real change happens. So look, if you like this content, feel free to like and subscribe. And of course, if you like psychedelic culture content in general, head on over to psychedelicscene.com. That's where all of the content around music and the arts and this podcast, that's where that's housed. And if you like that content, consider buying our founder, Jason, a little cup of coffee, because he is the one who keeps the lights on. And so until next time, family, take care.